There is so much you can do to optimize your blood sugar regulation. The first thing I would focus on is optimizing the quality and quantity of your sleep. If you are sleeping less than 7 hours a night, this is already increasing your risk of diabetes. In fact, they did a study where for just 1 week only, they had people sleep 4 to 5 hours a night. After that time, they're already having the blood glucose levels of somebody who's pre-diabetic. So sleep deficiency has a radical ability to trash your blood glucose regulation. So why is it that sleep has such a huge impact on blood sugar regulation? Well, when you're not getting enough sleep, things in your body start to get lazy and ineffective. What happens is that in your pancreas, you have these things called beta cells, and they are responsible for having your pancreas, first they detect what's going on with your blood glucose. They detect, okay, when is the blood glucose going up? And when it's going up, they are able to have your pancreas send out insulin to then tell your muscles and other cells to soak up that glucose and get it out of the bloodstream. So when you are sleep deprived, the beta cells in the pancreas lose the sensitivity to the signs of high glucose. So they're not as good at detecting when to start this whole process. And so that's really a problem. And then insulin is not being released. And then the insulin that you do release is trying to tell your cells to absorb the glucose, but when you're tired, those cells aren't listening. They're not able to get that signal as effectively from the glucose, so then they're not doing their job either. So the whole operations chain of how your body deals with its blood sugar is completely falling apart. So optimizing your sleep is key. If you are having trouble with that, send a question into our question box on Instagram, and we can definitely talk way more about this. It's one of my favorite subjects. Now, let's look at some things in a different category. Let's look at herbs. Berberine would be a top one here. Berberine is an extract coming from the, berberine is found in lots of plants, right? But it's coming, usually when you find it in supplements, it's coming from the Indian barberry. And this has been shown in studies to be just as effective as the diabetes prescription drug metformin. Another favorite for me here is reishi mushroom. It's my favorite for so many reasons, but it's having a big impact on blood glucose regulation amongst its other activities in terms of immune enhancement and dealing with stress and anxiety. And then also I want to mention ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is able to help lower blood sugar levels, looking at what's happened in the research, both in people with pre-diabetic and diabetic and normal-ish, like slightly elevated blood glucose levels. And so, for example, they had a study. It's 4 weeks with 25 people, and they had shown that ashwagandha reduced the fasting blood glucose 3 times more than with the placebo. And then they did another study where people had type 2 diabetes, and with them, they found that when they took this as a supplement for 30 days, it helped to lower the fasting blood glucose as effectively as oral diabetes medication. So that's, again, pretty impressive. Now, there's a lot of other things you can do supplementarily here. Fish oil is really good, phosphatidylcholine, vitamin D3 and K2, and B vitamins. B vitamins are able to enhance insulin secretion and protect against insulin resistance. Now, what's ironic here, you know what actually gets lowered by traditional diabetes medications? B vitamins. Just the thing you would need to help actually regulate the situation a little bit. And then also phosphatidylserine is a good one, and magnesium, last but not least.